just confirmed. What went wrong for the Buffalo Bills, and how did they suddenly lose three-star players? Fans across the National Football League are in shock as this unexpected development raises serious concerns about the team's depth and future. With superstar quarterback Josh Allen leading the offense, the Bills were seen as strong contenders, but losing key talent could change everything. While some believe it's part of a strategic reset, others fear it could hurt their chances this season. But here's the twist. The reasons behind these departures might be more complicated than they seem. Stay tuned as we break down exactly what happened and what it means for Buffalo moving forward. Man, you can just feel it right now. This is one of those moments in the offseason where everything starts to connect. And if you've been riding with the Buffalo Bills for the last few years, you already know how important these stretches are. These are the moments that quietly shape what this team is about to become long before the first snap of the season is even played. Because on one side, Buffalo looks like a team that knows it's right there. Not rebuilding, not retooling from scratch, right there. Like one or two smart, calculated moves could push this roster even closer to that Super Bowl level we've all been chasing for years. But on the other side, there's that uncomfortable truth every contender has to face. Not every piece gets to stay. And sometimes the losses hit harder than fans want to admit in the moment. One part of this story is about what Buffalo might still do before this roster feels complete. And the other part is about what the team has already had to give up as this new chapter starts taking shape. And when you put those two sides together, it tells you everything about where this team really stands heading into this season. So before we dive all the way into it, if you're a real Bills fan who's locked in through every move, every rumor, every wild offseason twist, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to Bills Nation Update, and be part of this from the beginning. This channel is brand new. We're pushing toward our first 3,000 subscribers, and if you want real Bills talk from people who actually care, you're in the right place. Now here's where things get really interesting. The first big storyline feels simple at first, but the deeper you look, the more it feels like Buffalo might not be done yet. Like there's still one more move out there that could quietly bring this entire offseason together. Because let's be real, the Bills have already been aggressive. This is not a front office acting like they're satisfied with just being a playoff team. This is a front office that believes the window is still wide open. And when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen in his prime, that's exactly how you should be thinking. Every offseason should be about maximizing that window. No excuses, no waiting. And the biggest example of that mindset? The move to bring in DJ Moore. That's not just another addition. That's a statement. Because what did Buffalo really need? A true, reliable, top-tier weapon on the outside. Someone defenses actually have to respect. Someone who changes how opposing teams line up before the ball is even snapped. And DJ Moore does exactly that. Now suddenly this offense feels different. More explosive, more balanced, more dangerous. Defenses can't just key in on one option or treat the receiving group like it's full of role players. More forces adjustments. And that's exactly what this offense has been missing in big moments. But Buffalo didn't stop there. They turned around and made serious moves on defense too, bringing in players like Bradley Chubb and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And those are not long-term development pieces. Those are win-now additions. Chubb, when he's healthy, can completely change the energy of a pass rush. He raises the ceiling of the defensive line instantly. And Gardner-Johnson? That's attitude, versatility, and edge all rolled into one player. The kind of presence that defenses feed off of. Then you look at additions like D. Alford and Geno Stone, and it becomes clear. The Bills are making sure the secondary isn't left behind in this push. But even after all that, there's still this feeling, like one final piece could tie everything together. And that brings us to a name that Bills fans already know very well. Rasul Douglas. This is one of those moves that doesn't feel flashy, but it feels right. Because Douglas isn't just some random free agent. He's familiar. He's already proven he can play in Buffalo. He understands the system, the expectations, the pressure. And that matters more than people realize when you're trying to build a contender. Last season, he showed he still has something left in the tank. Solid production, consistent presence, and the ability to step in and contribute without needing time to adjust. That's exactly the kind of player contenders add quietly, and then later in the season, everyone looks back and says, yeah, that move mattered. And here's the bigger picture. If Buffalo brings now, you're not drafting out of desperation. You're drafting from a position of strength. You can take the best player available instead of reaching to fill a hole. And in the NFL, that flexibility is everything. It's the difference between building something sustainable and making short-term mistakes. Financially, it could work too. If the price comes down into a reasonable range, this becomes a low-risk, high-value move. A veteran who already fits, already knows the locker room, and can give you meaningful snaps right away. And let's be honest, depth in the secondary is not optional anymore. In today's NFL, if there's a weakness, teams will find it and attack it over and over again. Hope is not a strategy, depth is. And Douglas gives you that. But while all of this is happening on the building side of the offseason, there's another side that fans don't enjoy talking about as much: the losses. Because while Buffalo has added talent, they've also watched several key players walk out the door, and not all of those departures are easy to replace. You look at a name like Mitchell Trubisky, and maybe it doesn't feel huge right away, but backup quarterback matters more than people think. The moment your starter misses time, even briefly, that position suddenly becomes one of the most important on the roster. Then there's Reggie Gilliam, a player who doesn't show up in headlines but plays a role in the team's identity. Toughness, versatility, those small details that winning teams rely on. On the offensive line, losing David Edwards could quietly become a bigger issue than fans expect, because protecting Josh Allen is everything. Interior line stability affects timing, rhythm, and the entire flow of the offense. Defensively, players like Cam Lewis and Darnell Savage brought flexibility and experience, the kind of depth that helps you survive injuries and adjust week to week. And then there's A.J. Epinesa, because pass rush depth is not something you can casually replace. Even with Bradley Chubb coming in, you need waves of pressure. You need rotation. You need fresh legs in big moments. And losing Epinesa could absolutely show up later in the season when games get tighter and every snap matters more. And finally, you have Ryan Van Demark, a depth piece that might not seem like a big deal now, but swing tackles matter. A lot. The Bills gained cap flexibility. When you connect both sides of this story, it becomes clear why a move like bringing back Rasul Douglas makes so much sense. Because the Bills are not just building, they're replacing. They're protecting themselves from the kind of roster erosion that can quietly derail a season. And overall, this situation still feels more promising than concerning. But it also feels delicate. This is a team with real upside. A team that looks like it's still chasing something big. But it's also a team that doesn't have much room for mistakes. Weak spots will get exposed, depth issues will show up, and not every new addition is guaranteed to fit perfectly right away. So these next moves matter. Because if this front office closes out the offseason the right way, this roster can absolutely look like a true Super Bowl contender. But if a few of these losses hit harder than expected, or if one or two holes get overlooked, then the conversation could shift fast once the season starts. Which free agent loss worries you the most? And do you want to see Buffalo bring back Rasul Douglas before the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the breakdown, and if you're rocking with Bills Nation Update, make sure you subscribe and be part of building this channel from the ground up.